Okay, I just want one thing to be clear. Apart from the last one, every problem I'm about to complain about was a good decision. I know, I am about to spend God knows how long complaining about it, but I genuinely believe that they were all good decisions on the part of the writers. The problem, beyond what I'm going to talk about, is that these good decisions were made to mask very bad decisions that were made in, I think, the last two volumes, specifically, yes, volumes 4 and 5. Because, like I've always said, no one walked away from volume 5 unscathed. So, with that out of the way, let's go through my problems with this volume in order.
What is Ozpin hiding from us?
Ozpin. You know, I feel like there would have been a very simple method of fixing this character, not having him past volume 3. And I'll elaborate on that later, but I'm going to tell you exactly the problem that was fixed with Ozpin's character. Ozpin's the main character. No, he's not the main character. RWBY is the main character. Ozpin's the protagonist. He's the one who is actively making the decisions about the plot. While he was present, he was their leader. Was he a good leader? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. But who knows, really? Volume 5, no one walked away from Volume 5 unscathed. But there's the problem, as you should know from how many people were complaining that RWBY wasn't a good protagonist. With Ozpin as the protagonist of the whole Save the World plot, it meant that RWBY had to take a back seat to everything. What the writers failed to understand is this problem kind of exists even beyond just Ozpin. And apart from Maria, who is a character I've already said her existence is a sign of bad writing. The ones with the least reason to be involved in the plot are Team RWBY. I mean, the one with the most reason is Ozpin, then Oscar, and those two are basically the same character. Then there's Crow, who's been involved for over 17 years. Yes. And the entirety of Team Juniper, who are trying to avenge a fallen teammate. And then Team RWBY, who are trying to avenge a fallen friend. A small distinction, but a distinction nonetheless. In fact, not all of Team RWBY, just RWBY. Weiss and Yang are only there because Yang is following RWBY, and Weiss is homeless. Blake shouldn't even be involved. It's detrimental to her character and the character has of those around her that she's involved. But I'll get to that later. You see, from my own experience of writing around problems, I like to imagine that they came up with this idea after some time of seriously brainstorming a way to find a way to get RWBY to be the protagonist, and then they just remembered, oh wait, some of our show's fans think Ozpin's a bad guy. Why don't we really just drive into that? And then they got really excited about it. It got on their laptops and started typing up that part of the script. I'm using my script, or simply just imagining what would happen in their heads. I'm using my own experiences to describe this. And you know, it's not, like I said before, it's not a terrible idea. It's just a lackluster solution to an idea caused by poor forethought. The problem with Ozpin is he was a minor character who they decided, for the sake of some exposition, to not only make the protagonist of the story, but they also made it so he could literally never be removed from the story. If you killed him off, he'd just come back in a few months in a new body. Sure, that means that at the very least you could keep him from being the best fighter in the team, though it depends on how long it actually takes for personalities to merge. But here's the thing. The whole Ozpin being a shady character who might not be trustworthy, before volume 6 they never actually successfully sold it on me. And And to show you why, I'm going to go through the several reasons people give for Ospin being shady. And yes, I'm going to use mostly the fans ones because the characters in the show's reasons are stupid. And tell you why it's nonsense. Like, I think the one that comes up chronologically first is running a school training children how to fight monsters. I don't know why people seem to think this is a problem. It's best if you're going to train someone to fight physically, it's best you start while they are young. And simply because the writers are either incapable of writing professional huntsmen who are better than dropouts, out main characters, or incapable of showing that huntsmen exist is outside of the students of Beacon, it kind of gives the impression that, I don't know, maybe Beacon is like the first combat school, except it can't be because those Ruby and Yang's parents met in high school, met in Beacon. So, what I'm trying to say is as much as say is that while usually yes, training children to fight in a battle is not a good thing, if you think of it more like training an army, then it makes a lot of sense. Like if you're training a massive group of people who are meant to grow up and fight for the rest of their lives. And sure, okay, what about Pyrrha? They say that Ospin kind of gave her a choice she couldn't refuse, and you know what, that's true. One usually can't refuse to help save the world. The problem is this Ospin kind of has no choice in this either. I mean, I can see why he considered Pyrrha a good candidate. She's already strong, so if she kind of loses control and beats someone more than she should, so long as she doesn't do something over the top, no one should be able to notice that her power has spiked. Plus, she isn't really closely associated with him in any way beyond he's a headmaster, so she wouldn't be an immediate thought. Plus, I don't think anyone in Salem's group knew about the aura transfer machine, so they had no reason to think that Amber would be thinking about some random student. Plus the fact that Ospin is choosing someone from a school of people who've pretty much given their lives to fighting monsters is better than him picking someone else randomly off the street. My only real problem is he should have used Glinda. Though you could say it's because she's actively known to be his assistant, I guess. Yes. I mean, how do you think Ospin recruited all the headmasters? He had to also be like, he had to also be like, well, the world is going to end. Because if he didn't, it would mean he'd basically be fighting in the war against Salem on his own, which is dumb. What else? There's his decision to let Team RWBY go out, but he kind of justifies that in the show. Because think about what you know about anime main characters and tell me Team RWBY would not have snuck away to go and investigate themselves. Also, if Ospin didn't do something drastic like lock them in cages. You tell me that. Look at your screen with a straight face and tell me that. Now tell yourself you're not lying. Anyway, if I need to spell it out for you, his justification is the fact that he's not sending them to fight anyone. He's sending them as scouts to figure out what's going on. The fact Professor Oobleck isn't really surprised shows that he kind of explained the situation to the guy, and it's not his fault RWBY fell through a plot hole into the story. Actually, if not for that hole, Team RWBY could have gone back, reported that they saw the White Fang, and then Ironwood could send in his army to arrest them. Of course, every situation where Ironwood sends his army out of Beacon would have been a problem, but what you going to do? You don't know everything. What's next? There's possessing Oscar. Yeah, Ospin didn't have a choice. You think if he had a choice, he would possess some random kid? And it's not like he can wait for Oscar to grow up and become a professional huntsman. Salem is on the move right now. What would you have him do? Sit down on the sidelines and do nothing? That would be way worse. There's the birds thing. That's stupid. There's Hazel's backstory. And between that and the birthing, I honestly can't tell which one is dumber. Oh yes, right. Volume 6. Volume 6 has the only instance of Ospin being shady in any way. As it is, he was already kind of under a light amount of shade. Oh yeah, yeah, right. Before I get into how the characters are acting, I need to tell you one thing. Ospin didn't want them to fight Salem, to help him fight Salem. Okay, you could say maybe he did, but maybe Salem spent. But you could also say that maybe Salem spent her spare time creating new impossible Grimm-style ice cream flavors in her room, and only comes out to plan for the destruction of the world so that she could somehow manage to harness it and create the ultimate delicious ice cream business. It's all speculation. I mean, sure, you have Raven say that he's been watching them, planning for it. But other than him letting RWBY come ahead, and if the show wants to justify its fights in any way, then the reason he let RWBY come to Beacon is because she's shown that she's great at fighting. In a world like Remnants, and for schools like Beacon, being able to fight is basically the most important thing. Like, you could be retarded if you can take on 100 Ursas single-handedly without getting a scratch. You would be given a huntsman license and an intelligent partner. Now these are monsters trying to destroy all of humanity, no matter what the show whether or not the show is good at showing this. It's best you kind of remember the intention. The point is, there is a perfectly justifiable reason. I mean, we don't even know if Summer was a silver-eyed warrior, though we kind of have to assume that, given how the characters seem to know so much about it. And if you don't think Rooster Teeth is going to do that, you don't watch RWBY that often, do you? So yeah, and hell, there's no way he could have known RWBY would grow up to be a silver-eyed warrior. If all silver-eyed warriors, silver-eyed children had the silver-eyed warrior thing, I highly doubt I should have had like as many children as she could possibly have in the hopes of manufacturing more grim exterminating masters. Is it kind of cruel? Only if you don't consider the fact that the Grimm apparently kill people every day. So what else? Yes, volume 6. There's Ospin not telling the children that there are more questions in Jane's book, that Jane could answer 2 more questions. I don't have a problem with this. Why should he? Should he? These are some random children that one of his lieutenants decided to bring along for a fight. Sure, he knows at least 4 of them to be really proactive in taking down the bad guys, but one of them, M's mother, is the woman who betrayed him and has run away to decide, you know what, I don't want to be involved in this fight anymore. And she spent an extended period of time with her, at which point she came and started complaining that he gave her mother superpowers. Was like, what? Would you trust her? Or would you suspect, after one of your lieutenants has just betrayed you to the enemy, that maybe she might betray you and go meet up with her mother? Sure, her mother's stupid, but what? Then there's not telling them that the lamp attracts Grimm. I feel like this was added in at the last second. In fact, no. I'm confident this was added in after they'd already structured most of Volume 6. Otherwise, there would be an instance of it beyond the train scene. Though I don't understand the need of the train scene. After Ospin and Crow, Jean is kind of the character who's known for encroaching on the protagonist role, so they had to put him on a train and send him off, at least for most of the show. So I guess I see why they needed to be separated. It's just the Grimm are literally only attracted to the relic once and never again. And also I have 2 questions regarding Ren's powers. First of all, the scene on the train proves that when Ren becomes a professional huntsman, companies and governments will be physically fighting each other to hire him. I mean, sure, you could hire a bunch of huntsmen on the to fight a Grim, or you could hire one to make sure a Grim won't even be able to realize that you're there. Like, compare him with John and put him on a train, and they are ultimately the greatest team for coming up for fighting Grim, especially if semblances really are supposed to be unique. I genuinely believe they've dropped that idea by now. If not by the time that the Snee family's hereditary semblance was introduced, but whatever. And also, wouldn't Ren's power work on the relic? I mean, it kind of does at the end of the volume, at the end of the volume, because Grimm ignore them even though they have the relic with them. Couldn't husband be like, Ren, put your semblance on this thing and end. We know that he can. Yeah, it's a good question. Too bad it's never answered. And what else? Oh yes, Osfin's backstory with Salem, unimportant. You could say it's important to know the law, but is it really important for the story? I mean, it's nice to know where Salem came from, but is it really important for the story? Like, what should change about them since they know that a small fraction of the entity known as Ospin, the mind that used to be Ozma's at least, was in love with the woman that used to be Salem. I mean, what did they learn that you couldn't already infer? That they've met before? No. That Salem's immortal? Well, unless they think she reincarnates like Ospin. That they had sex. I don't know why that's important. I guess that the most important things we actually learn is why the world is called Remnant. It doesn't explain why it's called Remnant in universe. Like, why do they call it Remnant? Or what? Maybe none of the characters have actually ever called it Remnants. And it explains why the gods left. It was just gods being gods. And it retcons Ospin's reason. I guess he was lying to make sure he didn't have to bring up the fact that he was burnt to death by the woman. One part, at least a fraction of his mind, was burnt to death by the woman that it loved after she probably killed their children. Oh yes, I think the most important thing is it proves that Ospin isn't as retarded as we thought he was. Because like, there's no way you can hear the description of the maiden's powers and think, this makes sense. This is a good idea. You should do this. Ever. Literally the most acceptable thing is that Ospin had no idea what would happen when he gave them the powers. If he did, then I would honestly say, fuck it. The world of Remnants it's doomed. It really is. But the idea that they are children of Ospin and Salem kind of justifies things. Oh yeah, right. And I should also bring this up. People say that Cinder's death was for nothing when they find out about the fact that Salem is unkillable. And I agree. Cinder's death was for nothing. It was not necessary. It didn't need to happen. Why did she fight Cinder after Ospin's basically spent... After like 50% of Ospin's speech to her was about just how badass maidens are. She has to have realized that Cinder had beaten Ospin. Did she think that... Ospin, right? The only way she could think that she stood a chance is if she thinks that she's stronger than Ospin. Which, you know what, given the way the show has gone so far, she might actually be, but still. Ospin's first words after Cinder gets her powers are, and I haven't seen this scene in a long time, so I'm just going to kind of ad-lib them. Don't fight her, you'll die, call a professional. So of course, she fought her, she died, and Jean called Weiss. I'm genuinely waiting for the time that Ospin just snaps, looks at John and is like, I was holding this back because I didn't want to have to deal with you having a nervous breakdown in the middle of our fight. But I told you to call a professional. The death is your fault, not mine. So, what else? Oh yes, Ospin has no plan to beat Salem. Did you think that he did? No, I'm genuinely curious. You thought that he did? He arguably spent 80 years doing nothing against her. Yeah, he spent 80 years doing nothing but running a school and whatever he was doing before he was Ospin. I think we should just start calling him Ozma or Oscar. Ospin's kind of fading away. Oh yeah, right. He's slowly possessing Oscar. Beyond the fact that we've already acknowledged it's not his choice. No, he's not. Nothing we've seen or heard really tells us that Oscar is in any trouble. Like, Ospin says that he's a combination of their minds. He said that he's just going to fade into Oscar's mind until Oscar basically just gains all his memories and fighting experience. Yes. Oscar's become the most important person in the world and one of its most powerful fighters, and has magic powers now. Why should I feel sorry for this character? Because he has to save the world? Yeah, I guess fighting someone to the death isn't something you should wish on most people, but why should I feel sorry for this character? Or even if he was lying about merging with Oscar eventually, Jin, the person we can basically rely on to be the most honest, though I don't really think that that means things she say will be not retconned, but Jin is arguably the only character we can trust not to lie, especially when she's answering a question. And she depicts a scene of Ospin living peacefully with his previous incarnation. Let's call him Glasses. She depicts that Ospin is living peacefully with Glasses, unless Glasses has a twin brother who looks and dresses exactly like him and doesn't fight Grim or Glasses. Or at that point, Ospin was going through one of the phases I imagine he goes through where he kind of has a mental breakdown. Like after thousands of years of fighting, you know that there have been some lifetimes where Ospin kind of just sits depressed for like several years before getting back up and continuing the fight. Man, Ospin must have like years of nothing but repressed memories. This guy needs a hug, not a punch in the face. But there is a big problem with the whole Ospin has no plan. I mean, besides the fact that it's kind of obvious he has no plan from the fact he's not doing anything. Two, the characters expected that he had a plan and simply hadn't told them, and they never bring it up even once. Crow worked for Ospin for like 18 years. Is Yang 18? 19 years. And this Crow worked for Ospin for almost 19 years. And that's assuming that Yang is 18 and Tai Yang knocked Raven up on graduation day. Okay. And never once was he like, so boss, what's our plan for taking on this woman? If Rooster Teeth doesn't plan on hiring Vic Mignogna back, they should totally just get me to voice Crow. I could do it. Probably. Nah. Where was I? I was talking about Crow and Ospin and... Oh yeah, right. It makes Crow and basically everyone else working with Ospin look like a total lunatic. And idiot for never once asking what exactly is our plan. You kind of understood that they didn't have a plan. And from the fact that they weren't doing anything. Like, well, they were getting Cinder to be... They were getting Pyrrha to become the new maiden, but... Did you get the impression they were going to do anything else? What? Did any of you think that as soon as she became the maiden, they were planning on sending her out into the world to do whatever? Huh? This scene would be so much better if Crow also knew that Ozpin had no plan. But even then, I'd find myself wondering why the main characters never once asked what the plan was. It was for the month and a half that they've been with Crow. Also, let's address Crow. Crow's the reason that the main characters are even involved in the main plot. He's the one who, for some reason, decided to tell Team Ranger about the plot. I don't know why. He probably just felt sorry for them for the fact that they were going to Mistral with for no good reason. Did they expect the criminal responsible for everything to still be there? They're going to school like a normal human being. Like, if Crow hadn't shown up, they would look like, people say that they were being proactive, but I have to say that if Crow hadn't shown up, they would have looked like complete morons. Maybe that's why he didn't want his niece to return home feeling like a failure at both thinking and doing things. Food for thought. What? So Crow punches Ozpin, and that's the point where Ozpin gives up on the plot. You would think that having lived as long as he did, he would be used to being betrayed. After all, he does say Leo isn't the first, which is more reason why he shouldn't really trust these random teenagers. I mean, look at Blake. She's an ex-terrorist. She's an ex-terrorist who just joined the plots in volume 6 with no good reason. I'll bring that up later. God damn it. He has no reason to really trust these people. Maybe John, because he's the one who is physically showing that he's affected. People say Ozpin doesn't trust them, and people say that Ozpin doesn't trust them, but of course he doesn't trust them. Okay, maybe you could say it's not entirely justified that he doesn't trust them, but I still feel the only reason he keeps them around is because he knows that because the show is called RWBY, they are going to be the only ones who can really win fights, and that as soon as he sends them away, he'll probably be captured and need to be rescued. Like I said, this year, Ozpin's a side character who was made the protagonist, and then they made it impossible for them to get rid of his character. So they just kind of have him lock himself away in Oscar's mind and forget about him. And then we get to see that Ozpin was totally right to not tell them that he didn't have a plan, because they immediately want to give up and throw the relic down a well. Well, RWBY, the character who is supposed to be the most hopeful and the one who they say isn't really affected by the apathy, is the one who throws it down the well.
If there was even the smallest chance of helping someone, that it was a chance worth taking. And because of that, she died fighting a battle she knew she couldn't win. And Penny was killed. Just to make a statement. I am scared. Salem doesn't care if you're standing against her or not. She'll kill anybody. Pyrrha, Penny. I'd be lying if I said that it didn't hurt. That I didn't think about them every day since I lost them. That I didn't wish I had spent more time with them. If it had been me instead, I know they would have kept fighting too. No matter how dangerous it was. So that's what I choose to do. to keep moving forward.
Sure, she immediately backtracks, but I'm sure Oscar didn't notice that was happening. Immediately take over Oscar's mind and tackle her. Which also brings me to the idea that so Oscar can momentarily take over Oscar's mind. Mind. I don't know why people are suspecting that have ever suspected that Oscar is really controlling Oscar, considering Oscar has shown the capability of breaking out even when Oscar's trying to keep him down. And the only time he really does this successfully is to win a fight that we all know Oscar would have lost. Well, we all know Oscar should have lost. But what is power scaling? Exactly. What is that? What is this thing you talk about? I could talk about Ospin for like half an hour. I've talked about Ospin for almost half an hour? God damn it, I haven't reached the other major problem with Volume 6 that anyone who really pays attention to anything that happens regarding RWBY on the internet should already know what I'm going to bring up.
Adam?
Hello, my darling.
Adam. Now don't leave any negative comments. Believe it or not, I'm not going to talk about the power scaling of Adam versus Blake and Yang. Because, let's face it, power scaling is very difficult to do. I say this from experience. And since Team RWBY isn't willing to do something like stretch out the show for years or show their characters training, we just have to like get with it. I can watch a show with no power scaling. Let me phrase that. I can watch a show with bad power scaling. One of my favorite anime is Seven Deadly Sins. Well, I'm reading the manga more than watching the anime, but still. Oh, I liked Fairy Tail while it was out, up until I noticed all the flaws. Hey, it's just like RWBY. You like it, but the flaws kind of punch you in the face every once in a while. Okay, to summarize, I'm just going to say that my opinion on Adam's character can basically be summed up by minutes. But summed up if you watch from minutes 3 second 28 to minutes 3 second 48 on the terrible writing advice video on Grimdark. That's basically what I think of Adam's character. But I will elaborate because I'm still complimenting the show, right? Like, yeah, I guess Adam's been badly written, but you have to compliment the fact that he's at least useful in giving the illusion that Blake and Yang are important. Like, he's the start and the end of a whole trust plot between the two of them, and you could say in that way he's useful. The same way you can say that a hammer you used on a screw to put in a screw is useful as well. That's not what it's for. But like I said, they haven't really given the characters anything, so I guess, yeah, they decided to sacrifice Adam to make the girls to give the girls something to do and not make them so useless. Yes, because I'm pretty sure 6 volumes of not having a real character arc beyond telling your mother off would have really made Yang really bland. Okay, I'm recording this after the bulk of the video because I just realized I didn't really talk that much about Adam dying in the first place. Like, I didn't really talk that much about Adam. I think I was more focused on how his death affects the story. It's hard to explain. But anyway, so I'm going to do that now. Here's the thing about Adam. Like, I'm a fan of a YouTuber named Adel Aka, but I think he's wrong on one thing about Adam. I don't think we need to know Adam's backstory. I mean, first of all, you name one thing that what could possibly happen in his backstory that we can't tell by reading his character sheet. No, really. Even before sure. Okay, yeah. of showing us the SDC logo. They could have shown us how he got the SDC logo on his face, but the moment you see it, it's no longer going to be shocking. Like, we don't need to see the backstory once we see the SDC logo on his face. We know we can gather how he got it, unless he did it to himself, which makes no sense. Also, on the note of the SDC logo, why would Adam wear a mask in universe? Wouldn't it be better to walk around with signs of humanity's cruelty on your face? Maybe he was just embarrassed. My point is that wait, no, that has nothing to do with my point. My point is that we don't need to know Adam's backstory, because as a writer, what you need to do is make your characters useful. You need to make sure they fulfill whatever purpose you created them for. For example, I created two characters solely for in my book. I created two characters solely for comic relief, and then I gave them I gave them a slight philosophical angle that I could use to attack an insecure character, and then I let them do that, and once that was established, I disposed of them. Like I didn't feel there's no need for you to learn about their backstory, mostly because they are like two out of like 10 notable members of the antagonists. Should I have put in a spoiler warning for a book that hasn't even reached the second draft yet? Nah. Anyway, the point is, we don't need to know Adam's backstory as long as it's useful. Was Adam useful? It hurts to actually. Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, he was. He facilitated a character arc between Yang and Blake because Yang didn't have anything. Yang didn't have a character arc before this. I defy you to find one. I mean, I guess she had a mom, but her mom's an idiot and they don't seem to really care about, and she seemed to have been over it. So, yeah, from volume 4 to volume 6, Adam acts as the catalyst and the end of Yang and Blake's character arc. Blake didn't need this. I refer to this scene as Adam's death, but I'm kind of inaccurate. My problem is that because Adam really only starts to get obsessed with Blake by volume 4. His dialogue in volume 3 can kind of be ignored. Okay, maybe not, but still. Like, even in volume 3, where they decided to say that he and her have even the slightest romantic history between them, he doesn't seem obsessed with her. His first scene in volume 3 is a flashback where he abjectly states that he doesn't care about her, and in you cannot possibly tell me that he was looking for her in Beacon. He was fighting some randos. She's the one who ran into him. If Adam really wanted to find Blake that hard, it wouldn't be that difficult. She wasn't hiding. In fact, she was like, her motivation, she actually managed to go from 0 to into the negatives. It was because not only was she not hiding properly, like not changing her appearance in any way from the last time he saw her or her name, she entered an international tournament that that she'd have to like know that no one she knew in the White Fang would ever be at all even slightly interested in watching the Vital tournament. And Blake's character can't enter the Vital tournament. And it's the opposite of hiding. It's the best way to be found in the world. My god. Anyway, so he didn't care up to that point. But it's like, I genuinely think that Adam's characters in volume, I genuinely believe that Elia did steal Adam's character, because the setup we saw with Adam was paid off with Elia's character. And now that I think about it and how they handled Elia's character, I'm actually absolutely glad that they didn't do that for Adam. Like, and at least the way they ended him, we can all be properly outraged, because because they didn't do what we wanted him. But now that I think about it, they probably wouldn't have been able to do what they were setting up in the first place. Is they took a character that apparently nobody liked writing. Why did you create him if none of you liked him? Was it Monty's idea? Did Monty make Adam? Oh, Monty created Adam. So they took a character none of them liked and decided to completely alter his personality and actions while giving him that old personality to a new character so that he's now obsessed. Was it smart? Not really. But Adam did serve this brand new purpose thrust onto him from volume 4 to 6, being an obsessive scumbag. He served it quite well. He didn't like. Now, if only Blake and Yang's part of the character arc were written better than his part, maybe we'd be able to forgive it. Like, where's Yang's PTSD? What's even up with Blake? Hey, why does she keep saying things? Like, the whole, I'm not, like, what? Does she care about him? Does she not? Isn't he the only thing driving all her actions? Why is the antagonist driving her actions? Why doesn't Blake care about Fornos? No, it's like she literally tells Adam, I'm not here for you. That line is so stupid that until someone pointed it out, I didn't even realize that it happened. I think I mentally just blocked it out for fear of damaging how much I actually liked the show. Oh wait, no, that was in volume 5. Like, I genuinely believe that's the worst line in the show. Unless I'm just blocking out more lines. Like, even I didn't walk away from volume 5 unmolested. I genuinely believe that's the worst line of the show. No, and the way I've come to see Adam's character, I like to make the comparison that it's like finding out Killmonger despite everything, Killmonger only wanted to become in charge of Wakanda because he wanted to be rich. Like, that's how it felt. That may not have been the impression, but that's what they've built up. I get the distinct feeling that if the writers want to salvage what they've really done with Adam, they have to say, no, the brand on his face isn't really because of the Shinidos Company. Like, I've seen a ton of genuinely hilarious jokes about how the real way he got his brand, but it's a little sad when you realize that for his character to really work, that they have to be more accurate that he was actually a slave of the Shinidos Company. I mean, otherwise, there is no real justification for why it's not at least seeing his freaking face. I mean, what's gonna happen? Blake and Yang are going to tell her at some point? And you can't pretend that Blake and Yang are actually going to be like shaken up by the fact that they killed Adam. You really can't. Like, they've already killed members of the White Fang before. What's special about Adam? Oh yeah, Adam was like someone Blake genuinely knew as a human being. Maybe they'll come to terms with other people whose deaths they're responsible for, especially Yang. Like, for Yang is the one who is mostly, like, for Yang it is technically murder, at least more than Blake, but she's the one who's already been responsible for like some people dying. I think she has the first on-screen kill in the entire show. Okay, after Toxin. I don't know. It depends on your definition of on-screen. Like, they kind of cut away from before Toxin gets hit, but we kind of see Yang hit the guy into the carriage with the bomb that then explodes. So, and if he survived that, it then lets in a genuine horde of Grimm. So, yeah, back to what I was saying. The thing about Adam is there are two possible explanations to his character, and both don't work for very different reasons. And the first is that he's always been like this, which seems to be the canon explanation, given that Yang says it, kind of cementing herself as the third dumbest character behind Raven and Blake. And I genuinely can't tell you which one of them is number one. But like that, he's always just been obsessed with Blake. and that he never once cared about the White Fang, and he wasn't. And to add insult to injury, from the injury, let's use the explanation for why he lost. He was never that strong to begin with. Okay, this doesn't work, because am I really supposed to believe that this guy managed to climb to the top of a terrorist organization? He did all that. He rallied people. He built the White Fang up to be to go from an ignored, not social movement, to a serious threat, and basically his dumbest decision was being involved, was necessary so that he'd be, involved in the plot. Because you realize that if the White Fang hadn't participated in the fall of Beacon, they wouldn't be in the plot. They really wouldn't. And it wasn't. You can argue about whether or not it was a good idea, for them to participate in the fall of Beacon. Like, it's kind of implied that up until season, like, that they are really working for Salem out of what's the word I'm looking for? Fear that she'll kill them. But like, it's kind of stopping to be worth it when you're doing something that will hurt both humans and faunas. Like, Adam's the definition of a well-intentioned extremist. He has great intentions, but the thing that's really in solid gold is extremist, which is basically synonymous with terrorism at this point. Anyway, am I supposed to believe he did all that simply to get into some girl's pants? Like, really? I'm convinced that Adam being romantically interested in Blake is what ruined his character. It's why I have this scene where he calls Blake my love as the worst character moment, as the moment his character dies, despite the fact he doesn't really start to waver in his character onto volume 4. Like, literally nothing indicated this. Indicated that he really cared about Blake as anything more than an informal partner. In the Black trailer, he doesn't really make a move after she leaves, unless I missed something. Blake never once mentions him in a slightly romantic mind. She just says that she just gives him the characterization that we all wound up expecting, because I don't know, we expected Blake to be telling the truth, I guess. Yes, that they're both on the same side, but he's too extreme for her, so she left. There's a reason I thought Adam was the leader of the White Fang. Rang up onto Sierra's introduction. Couldn't Blake just lodge a complaint? It's pronounced Sienna. Couldn't Blake just lodge a complaint and have the woman move her to like a different unit? She doesn't have to run away from the entire White Fang, just Adam. Also, the Schnee Dust brand on his face kind of reveals 3 major problems. Three scenarios, all of which are stupid. The first one is he and Blake were romantically involved and she never once saw his face. Okay. The second is he was just obsessed with Blake. She wasn't willing to be romantic back to him, and she never once complained about the fact that he was too. And she doesn't seem to mind what would essentially become workplace sexual assault. That's the term, right? Or at least him making her comfortable enough to complain to their leader and get reassigned. And Adam not being the leader of the White Fangs really opens a lot of problems. The third idea is, no, they weren't romantic. The third idea is, have I already brought this up? That they were romantically involved and she saw his face. Which means that not once in this 3 volumes, 4.5 volumes, not once in her time with Wise did she ever mention the fact, and they also branded their Phonos employees right in the face, which is actually a bad idea. If slavery isn't legal, so you have to assume that slavery is legal. I feel like Atlas can't be done right. I, beyond the basic world building problems that already exist in it. There's the whole funnels thing, because neon cats proves that you can be a happy funnels unless they like shoot her up with drugs and send her off as a diversity hire, as what is essentially a diversity hire, to make it seem like no, we're not that oppressive to funnels. Look at this funnels student we have. Look at how happy she is. That would be a great thing. That would be a great idea. Though it would mean Flint Cole is a bad guy. And I only like him for superficial reasons, so I guess, yeah. Plus, we get to see him fight again. We'd get to see him fight again as they try to rescue Han. I say this, but if they're really going to squeeze in that plot point, they'd probably have to extend the length of Volume 7 or keep them in Atlas for more than one volume, which I find unlikely. So what was I saying? I was talking about Atlas, Neon. I'm lost. So yeah, you're right. I'm talking about the fact that Blake didn't bring up. So that means that Blake knew about the branding, but never once brings it up to the girl, to the daughter of the Schnee family, the heiress, who, based on the fact that Blake actually acts like Yang is a human being. Blake doesn't. I would not think that Weiss knows about this. Like, you think that at some point in Volume 1 during a rant, she'd be like, and your company brands their employees right in the face. If Blake isn't like a sadistic idiot, it means she has never once seen Adam's face, which raises some serious questions about the idea of a romantic relationship between the two of them. And man, you see why I don't believe that, even if you don't agree, you see why I don't believe that there was really any romantic thing with them until the writers decided to arbitrarily create it. They tried the best they could create it. I feel like the only reason they even left the brand on Adam's face after they decided he doesn't speak for the Faunus anymore is because they needed to they knew everyone would be freaking upset over the fact that despite never seeing his face for 4.5 volumes, there's nothing on it. There's nothing noteworthy. Maybe they could have shown he was deformed, but I guess they were afraid that it would simply make it appear that they are saying that if you're deformed, you can't be loved. And in the same way, they said that they didn't want to suggest that they think that if you're gay, you're a criminal, despite the fact that they are gay criminals. Okay, let's move on to the more plausible explanation. Adam wants revenge on Blake for taking away his power to get revenge on humanity as leader of the White Fang. This is actually pretty good. I just have two major problems. Well, a minor problem and a major problem. Also, I'd like to point out the fact that I consider this a minor problem is a major problem. They don't establish it well. They don't establish that that's his motivation. All he does is complain that Blake chose Yang over him. Am I really supposed to believe that he really cares about the Faunus when he never once brings up the fact? Like this complaint is played out, but the fact he's never once met Weiss is horrible. Especially considering that he's the character who we most like. Let's just consider the fact that Adam is the character we most consider is the White Fang. Like, as far as we're concerned, Adam is the White Fang. Despite the fact he also wears a mask, he has the most distinct design. I can't see and I can't, but she literally was created just to die. So, yeah, Adam was the face of the White Fang. Adam and Blake were the only characters who acted like Faunus suppression was a thing. I don't count a bullying someone to be racism, unless Caden secretly thinks John's a Faunus. No. So Look, Adam and Blake are the only characters who talk about fauna suppression, and Blake's real and what Blake says is that the faunus, the White Fang being violent, has created better solutions, has been better than when it wasn't violent. This is after she's already left, so you can't say that Adam has simply lied to her. And she's talking to a faunus from a supposedly really racist country of Mistral. Well, he's not from there, but he lives there. So if it wasn't true, you know it's in Sun's character to be like, what? No, shit has gotten worse since the White Fang started bombing places and burning down stores. I tell you, those guys are the worst. Sun is arguably the second character who would be able to like immediately tell Blake that she's wrong about the White Fang making things better, and she only knows this because she's been listening to their propaganda. The other would be Neon Cat. I think they're what? Anyway, you know what? I should delete that last soundbite. Anyway, so. And Blake hasn't really been doing anything about fauna suppression, except like stopping the White Fang's more insane things of doing. Adam's the character who's basically been fighting to stop fauna suppression. He's the character we associate with this. So having him never talk about it when his problem is that she stopped him from being able to continue is good. And now for all you patient people who've listened for 44 minutes, my god. Well, here's my real problem with Adam in volume 6. And it doesn't really have that much to do with Adam, believe it or not. And no, it's not about the writers, believe it or not. It's about Blake. Remember how I said that Blake has the least, or at least I should have said it, Blake has the least reason to be involved in the plot? Like, she doesn't really have a good reason to be involved with the plot, which she doesn't. I wasn't joking. Blake shouldn't be there. She should be involved with the White Fang. Taking it back was her idea. She shouldn't have as soon as they beat Adam, you know what would happen? People would the white faunus who don't live in Menagerie would immediately splinter off from the White Fang and form their own group, which Adam should then be leading. Because here's the thing, they got members of Menagerie to be like, no, Adam doesn't speak for us. But the problem is, and I can tell you this as my experience from a black person who lives in Africa, they wouldn't have experienced any racism. Sure, they would have heard about it, but if you told me that there are children in Menagerie who don't even really believe that humans are real, I wouldn't find that too unbelievable. Unless they were just recently sent to Menagerie in the last 10-20 years. Yes, the only humans who really go there are the ones who are on the boat, like the sea captain and his crew. Like, they are the only humans who seem to have ever set foot on Menagerie ever since it was made into Faunus country. So these people don't know racism. They don't know oppression. Why are they supposed to be the authority on the people who want to stop oppression? And when the White Fang were holding a rally, hundreds of people just kind of walked off the street and into to join a terrorist organization. The racism is that bad and genuine. It's not just something Adam made up for Blake's, and it's not just something that exists in Blake's mind. So, well, what am I supposed to say? Exactly. What? The fact that Blake doesn't find it necessary to stay along with her parents and try to continue fighting with grabbing hold of the White Fang, like she doesn't think that, oh my god, this is going to be such a huge problem, I should stay with my parents. Like parents, like, did they tell Blake about the end of the world? And then what did she tell her parents? Did she tell them too? I find it hard to believe they wouldn't also be following them. And did they tell her, like, was she like, well, mom, thanks for helping me take over a terrorist organization. Thanks, Dad. Now, you guys enjoy going back to leading it, despite the fact that 100% of every current member of the White Fang will absolutely disagree with letting you even near the seat of power. I'm gonna go hang out with my friends, okay? What? So, I can't. So Blake is actually, unlike Maria, who has no reason to be there, Blake has reason to be elsewhere. Yeah. Like, the bonus subplot is so unimportant that the character who is supposed to be in charge of it isn't even really involved in it. And the problem is, as I was practicing for this rant, because I need to practice, I've made like 4 separate proto videos of this video, and I might even make more, but I'm liking the way this is turning out. As I was going, in 3 seconds, I came up with a solution. Salem created the furnace. Think about it. If Salem created the furnace and, I don't know, was like planning on destroying humanity and repopulating it entirely with furnace, it would explain why Adam was so adamant of working with her, even though furnace are dying for a plan that there's no way he knows about. Because, like, there's no way he knows that those guys work for, like, a grim woman, right? I like it because I like to think that at least the villains don't tell random people about their plan, about everything that's going on in the world. Well, I can't expect the heroes to not do that. But for the villains, it would actually be like disadvantageous. If Salem created the furnace, it would explain where furnace came from, and it would organically like explain why Blake should stick with the main group instead of continuing what she is doing already, which is trying to take control of the White Fang. You could say that the White Fang is still planning on working for Salem because their members now know that their true creator wants to help them get rid of the humanity who's been holding them down. Sure, you could you could say, but why did she not care about them up until this point? To which I say, do you want this plot or not? No. Not. Like, it fixes Blake. It propels her from -1 on the reason to be here scale to above basically everyone who isn't Ospin, Oscar, and Crow. Hell, even above Crow. Well, you cannot tell me this is not a good idea. Yeah. Plus, you could say that by creating the furnace, Salem has found a way to create constant problems among humanity as they continue to like abuse the furnace. I think the first time we see them, they are in cages, and now they are the black people of Remnant. Like, over thousands of years, their situation hasn't been improved, and then you could have it that Blake reveals that no, Salem has secretly been making sure the furnace's life is hell to continue creating problems. And you could now have it that the White Fang can be working together with the Grim, which I'm confident the writers will also find a way to make unthreatening, but and I know that there's no way they could have really inserted that conversation into volume 6 without... Actually, no, I'm convinced that would seriously improve volume 6. But, that's not what happened. Instead, Blake just doesn't find the White Fang important enough to continue maintaining control of. Adam, I find it hard to believe Adam, if he tried, wouldn't be able to continue maintaining a hold on them. He just needs to point out, these guys have tried, these guys have failed. Okay, you're right, I failed once. Trying to bomb Haven while all the funnels were in it. Stupid idea, like, my god, I am kind of unredeemable. But it's basically between me, who has been bringing in results, and Gira, whose own daughter, after she had betrayed us, still says that we were bringing in better results than before. Oh hell, pick someone else. I don't need to be in charge. I just need to be here to kill humans. fans. And you know what? I think I'm going to kill the Belladonnas too. They are clearly more trouble than they are worth. This is something that I want to care about. And no, not because racism kind of affects me in any way. Like I said, I've never experienced discrimination in my life. But I'm only attached to this because as people keep saying over and over and over again that it's not important and that they've completely ruined it, I have kept holding on to the hope that no, this was the conflict for the first 2 volumes. Well, this and Touchwork, but he's dead. This was the conflict for the first 2 volumes. They are not going to backtrack on that and suddenly say, yeah, but it was never that important in the first place. Yes. The only way you could justify this not being that important is if it didn't happen in the first, if we completely ignore the existence of the first 2 volumes. It's amazing. Like, I'm not saying that Adam's death wasn't littered with a bunch of mistakes. I'm just saying that the biggest problem with his death kind of doesn't really even have much to do with his own death. Like, you see the problem? This has nothing to do with power scaling. And you know what? These are things that I'm saying are good. And I'm saying that these are good ideas the writers have had. Think about that. I consider everything I just said a good idea. Mostly because they are just made to fix up bad ideas they've made between volume 4 and the volume that shall not be mentioned. The volume shall... I can't believe I messed that up. The volume that shall not be named. I decided to put... yes, I did decide to put my Ospin and... what's his name? Adam discussions together in one video because I couldn't like get them to work as separate videos. I'm tired. Can't believe it. Do the people who make these long video essays actually say everything in one go? Like do they actually write all this in a script? Do I have a point? Oh, yes, right. Have I even concluded the Adam video? The Adam section of the video? Probably. But you know what? These are all great. Like I said in my Who is the Best Villain in RWBY video, they are they are putting a band-aid over a wound that you've been stabbing. Okay. But before I continue on to the real worst part of volume 6, I mean those last 2 are the parts I hate. I genuinely believe that what I'm about to say is the objective worst part of volume 6. Before I get to that, I just like to do something. I don't believe that it's good to criticize something unless you can come up with a better idea. So let's see. Well, I think that for starters, if you absolutely must keep Ospin reincarnating, he should reincarnate into a baby. You could literally write him out of the rest of the show. By doing that, by knowing the definition of reincarnation. It's odd, but it's true. And here's something that's actually difficult to pull off, so they might not have done it. It doesn't need to be the protagonists. Like, if you properly write their characters, they should already have things to do that don't involve the end of the world. Like, which is like the basic problem with RWBY. Like, if the end of the world wasn't happening right now, would there be anything interesting about RWBY? No. Like, or Yang. Like, sure, you could say that Yang is like the most affected personally of the end of the world, but I still say that Salem is personally responsible for killing Ruby's mom. Not because I have any evidence, but because it's the only way they can justify the final fight being Ruby versus Salem. It's because as it is, the final fight should be Salem versus Oscar. And Oscar who's already absorbed the entity known as Ospin. And Oscar for him, you see, like, this is the problem with Oscar. He's either stealing the limelight or he's not well developed. That's a video I'm not planning on making. I think because a lot of people have already made their own videos. Like, you could either write or spin out of the show, which they should have done if they are incapable of doing the second thing, or let Team RWBY deal with their own problems while also dealing with the end of the world, while Ozpin is the main character of the end of the world. It's not how stories are usually structured, but you know, as a writer, you're supposed to find creative ways around the problem. I know I say this because even though I'm unpublished, that's one of the things I enjoy about writing. Creatively writing around problems. And there's very little that compares to finding yourself in a corner and then finding a way to get out of that corner while simultaneously improving something else that you already thought was great. Like, it's just the best. It's the best. And as for Adam, well, the thing about Adam is, if you go back far enough, you can do whatever the hell you want with this character. If he's going to be just someone obsessed with Blake, you cannot let him be in charge of the White Fang in any capacity. It causes too many problems. If he's meant to be a Killmonger type, then you can't have him be obsessed with Blake practically out of nowhere. Like, they knew, while writing Volume 3, that Adam was going to say that he was in love with Blake, but I don't think they knew he'd be obsessed with her. Because if they did, they wouldn't have included the scene where someone swears on their life to bring her back and he pretty much says, nah, she's not that important. Like, what? That scene, that flashback scene, is a major problem in all the excuses of why Adam's character isn't badly written. In almost everything he does contradicts almost everything he does in the actual series, and it's in Volume 3. Unless RWBY is written like South Park, in which they write one episode and then they would then create that, then write the next episode. I like the show, and I don't want to like jump on the bandwagon of insulting Miles and Carey, but that's bad writing. And right there, that's either bad writing or you've fallen into the trap that I often find myself in, and of you've come up with a great idea, but it will involve some serious retcons. Like, they even leave Ilya behind. What was the point of Ilya's character except to do what they appear to have been trying to do with Adam and failed? So they were like, well, before we kill Adam off, we might as well like just do this plotline we really liked. But we've made him into an abusive boyfriend, despite the fact that never once does he do anything to indicate he's an abusive boyfriend. Where did that idea even come from? I'm genuinely curious. Why does everyone seem to think he was an abusive boyfriend? Do they say it at a panel? Is it in one of the video commentaries? Why? It seems to be just something we've all come to say, yeah, that's fact. Like the fact that when aura stops working, we call it aura breaking. Like, I was talking about it. So yeah, basically you can scale Adam back far enough and do whatever the hell you want. Personally, like I've said, I always saw him as more of a Killmonger type villain. But now to what I feel is objectively the worst part of Volume 6. The mech fight. And not because of any problem in animation, power scaling, all that. Though they are still there. Don't get me wrong. Like RWBY does get better and better in production value. But that doesn't mean we should really excuse any bad storytelling in it. It's by that logic, Volume 5 is miles better than Volume 1. I'll let that sentence speak for itself. Anyway, so I don't really, I can't say I don't mind the mech fights. I can tolerate the mech fights. It's the aftermath of the mech fight that I don't like. Because Team RWBY is in the wrong here. They've stolen from a military that, as it is, already appears to be ready to go on an all-out war and shoot just about anyone who comes close. And if you really believe that it's their actions that attracted Grimm, they are single-handedly responsible for a Grimm invasion that caused more on-screen deaths than the Volume 2 Grimm invasion that was, to quote Cinder,
colossal failure.
So, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to think? Really, what am I supposed to think? And yet they're allowed to just walk away. This is part of the reason why I'm convinced that there won't actually be like a struggle within the white fan between people who want to continue working for it and people who don't want it to stay the same. Team RWBY is right. Team RWBY is always right. They don't trust Ospin. They're on the right clearly. They're on the right clearly, even though he has reason to not even. He doesn't really have that much reason to trust them beyond. He doesn't have that much reason to trust them. I mean, remember, one of his most loyal followers, who he's explained personally, who I have to imagine explained personally that the world will end. It will probably end if Salem wins. And decided with Salem for unspecified reasons. Why did Leo side with Salem exactly? Oh, I forgot to count Leo when I was thinking of the best written villains in RWBY. That's so funny, I can't even laugh. So what now? Yeah, so they're allowed to win. Team RWBY will always win ideologically. I mean, they've committed massive crime and are possibly responsible for more on-screen deaths than the Volume 2 breach each, and even some property destruction. Like, you could say that no one in Argus died, but the Argus military, some people in the Argus military definitely died. And it's like, I just realized, what? It's like, why? What? Why? Like, if Team RWBY aren't allowed to be wrong, why am I? That means there's no moral ambiguity, no nuance, no. It's just they'll say. It's just as soon as one of the four sacred girls says you're not a good person, you automatically lose all credibility. It happened to Ospin. Then it happened to Adam. I'd say it happened to Hazel, but Hazel's backstory is already retarded. And I'm sorry, but it is. I am genuinely curious how they came up with that. Like, no insult. I want to know why they thought that would be a good idea. Like, really. I'm not joking. I'm curious. Yes, I won't even. I can't say I won't complain about it though. So, am I done? Oh yeah, right. I have to come up with a solution. Now there are two solutions to the mech fight with Cordovin. I personally believe both are better than what we got. Though I believe, and I actually, no, at the very least, I believe that both would make Volume 6 very unique. So, some of you may find yourself wondering, why was Cordovin acting like a spoiled child throughout the fight? It's quite simple, really. If she had acted like a responsible military leader, it would have become there's no way Team RWBY would have been able to escape unless you decided that you don't need a fight scene for the end of Volume 6. What you need is a chase scene where your main characters are avoiding the police. And well, if she did, then you'd realize that Team RWBY is in the wrong, and despite how antagonistic she's acting, this woman is in the right. And well, they can't allow that to happen. Remember, they've killed all the nuance in the show, all the moral nuance and differences of opinion. It's just, you disagree with Team RWBY, you deserve to be fought and possibly killed. Solution 1, don't have it happen. I mean, you make a big deal over the fact that the relic is supposed to be something that attracts Grimm all the time. Make it that the entire march to Argos is basically one long overextended fight scene that may start out as epic as the volume 1 fight, as the episode 1 of volume 6 fight scene, but you could like make the animation slowly like worse and even show the fights less and less to signify that we're all kind of tired of fight scenes, and then volume 6 could like end without a fight scene. Like, I know, amazing. What? Like you could have, and if you write it properly, it can be great. Like it justifies that, yeah, Osprey kind of fucked up in not telling them that the relic attracts Grimm seriously, and you could actually write it so no fighting is kind of like, no fighting can be an acceptable end for the story. Damn. I'm genuinely, I'm kind of sad that both of what I've said hasn't happened. But if you don't have the budget for that, which from the fight scenes that have happened in volume 6, I have to imagine they don't really have the budget for that, then I have to assume that and I guess you must have the mech fight with Cordovin, and then you must show that, yeah, we know, and then you have to basically say, yeah, we know the apathy was cool, but you know, other than them, the Grimm are still useless. Salem's making flying monkeys. Who gives a shit? But you know, other than that, like even if you have to have all that, here's the key: Cordovin arrests Team RWBY. Like, she arrests them and is like, I'm placing you all under arrest for theft of and triggering Grimm, which would be great world building. Like, it's a crime to do anything that even unintentionally causes Grimm to come, especially if people die. Like, it cements that, yeah, Team RWBY truly wants to do the good, right thing because they didn't run away when they had the chance. But they really did the wrong thing just now. Now they are being sent to Atlas in handcuffs. All of them to be tried as maybe even war criminals. And practically murderers. It's a seriously dark tone, but is it any darker than volume 3? Is it? No. Is it volume 3? Yeah, is it any darker than volume 3? Is ending? And the characters will have to learn from their mistakes, realize that just because they don't like someone, it doesn't mean they are right, and the person they don't like is wrong. It would be like volume 3 on steroids. It would is steroids. Like, I'm not going to say it would make it the best volume in RWBY, but it would arguably make it one of my favorites. I say this, but I realize that I might not even like it. I probably wouldn't even like it from the fact that they actually committed the crime, given that there are so many ways they could have gotten into Argus without committing a crime. Oh my god. You can't justify the mech fight against Maria. You can't. Like, you can't. I think the reason Crow wasn't allowed to just turn into a bird and fly to Argus is because it would just destroy the already it would just poke holes into the basket that is holding all the water of Yang's accusation that the ability to turn into birds is a bad thing. What is wrong with you? I'm talking to Yang, of course. What is wrong with you? This is so frustrating. The mech fight can't happen if the characters are intelligent. And I know it's painful because I've realized often that things can't happen in my books if the characters are intelligent. And it's arguable, and it's you know what you know what, this was supposed to be my last RWBY video so I could focus on things that aren't RWBY. But I do think I still have to talk about how RWBY's affected my writing personally later on. So yeah, that's my major problems with volume 6. Did it fix the problems of volume 5? It did its best, but like, it doesn't erase the fact that volume 5 happened. I guess my problem with volume 6 is more everything that happened before it still exists. They have yet to retcon that. Sure, it would be a massive retcon, but they've already done massive retcons before. So, yes. Well, what can I say? Beyond that, like, genuinely, what can I say? Hey. Well, I can say I'm still going to be watching RWBY, though I'm not going to be paying for it. At least not in actual, like, paying to watch Rooster Teeth first. It's like I like the only Rooster Teeth shows I still holding out any hope for at day 5, which I've never seen, but I think might be interesting. And if they're ever going to actually do it, which seems increasingly unlikely, Nomad of Nowhere season 2. And Camp Camp might just be the only reason Camp Camp might be the only reason I actually give any money to Rooster Teeth, because it's still funny. And I guess RWBY. At this point, 50% of my reason for still watching RWBY is because I enjoy watching various characters, various YouTubers tear into it, and it's very insightful in teaching me lessons on my own writing. So yeah, I have no idea what I'm going to title this video, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to end it. But those are like the major problems. How volume 6 is full of. How volume 6 is technically brilliant writing, but it still has major problems. They needed to get rid of they needed to get rid of what the de facto protagonist, and they did it badly. But at least they got rid of him, because I don't think they could write a story without, because they've already gotten so many characters that it would be impossible to really focus on RWBY, either the team or person, without like making them the protagonist. And they needed to get rid of Adam after his handling of his character. That is volume 5. No one walked away from volume 5 unscathed. Not even the audience. Like, we cannot agree volume 6. Like, it would take genuine efforts to make something as bad as volume 5 again. And it's it would, especially after they've already made that mistake, and basically should basically have all those complaints like written down on a notebook on their table when they're writing the second script for volume 7. Now, if you excuse me, I need to record like 2 extra bits of 2 extra sentences of information on the Adam plot that I haven't actually put in, and inject them in. Feel free to tell me what you think in the comments. I'll do my best to respond to all of them. Who knows, maybe one of you will convince me I'm wrong and volume 6 is brilliant. It's unlikely, but maybe. God, this video is long.